If I were to come to you and say, hey, I need a new car, what should I get? You would probably come back at me with questions. You would say, well, how big of a car do you need? Do you have a lot of kids at home? Do you transport a lot? What about your mileage? Will you be driving your car a long way and you need really good gas mileage? Or are you just doing really short bursts around town? How important is it for you to like the looks of it? Or, how important is luxury to you? Maybe the question is like, okay, well, what kind of engine do you want? Do you want a gas powered? Do you want an EV? Because where you go might dictate whether or not you need a gas or an EV. These are all the kinds of questions that you would ask me if I said, what kind of car should I get? This is kind of how I feel when someone comes to me and says, what kind of supplements do I need? Because we all have our own different goals. We all have things that are important to us and all have nutritional elements that are important to us or that we are starting to pay more attention to, and some that maybe is not really an issue and we get plenty of it, or it's just not as important to us. And I'm just going to tell you that's okay. If you clicked on this episode, you know that we are talking about supplements today. And I will say this is one of the things that has expanded and blown up in my 20 plus years as a fitness professional. Yeah, we would hear sometimes about supplements, but now you cannot get on any kind of social media. You hardly can listen to a podcast without getting some sort of ad about a supplement. And this is going to change your life. And this is what you need. I have done a couple episodes on supplements before, but in today's episode, I want to take a common sense approach, which means we are taking the science and taking what we understand about it, zooming out and saying, does this make sense to me? And I'll try not to overuse this analogy, but if I came to you right now and said, what kind of car should I get? And you said, oh my gosh, I love the Honda Odyssey. It's a great minivan. I would have said, that would have been great 20 years ago when I had little kids. I don't need a minivan right now. We are being sold so many supplements that we don't need. So I want to take our quick common sense time together today and talk about this because the supplement industry we're in a supplement era. I don't really even know how else to explain it, but we're just getting hit so many ways. So let's zoom back, let's take a common sense approach and let's talk about that. So the first thing that I would say when it comes to supplements is actually we want to have our food first. Food is what God gave us to fill our body. If we are having protein shake, which yes is a supplement for breakfast, and a protein bar for lunch, and we're taking all of the different things that they say we should be taking, we're not getting that from food. And food is designed to have these micronutrients, which a lot of the supplements are focusing on. Food is designed to have what's called bioavailability, to have it available to you biologically, to be absorbed in a particular way. So first, remember that we want to have our food first, and then where we have gaps, and we'll kind of talk about that, where we have gaps, that's where supplements can be an option to fill in those gaps. The other thing I would encourage you to ask before you purchase any supplements is, am I eating enough? So often we undernourish ourselves. Many of us, dare I say most of us, have grown up in extreme diet culture where we are always eating less than what our body needs because we are trying to do that in the name of thinness or having a particular body. It may be that if you eat the right amount for your uniquely designed body, you may be getting adequate amounts of the micronutrients that are being pitched to us by the supplement industry. Also ask yourself if you're eating a variety of foods. If you can see a lot of different colors on your plate, hopefully a lot of different kinds of plants, a lot of different kinds of proteins, those all have unique nutrients that when combined together, we get a nice, well-rounded amount of nutrients that our body needs. And I think it's also important to ask, What do we actually need? And that's where blood work comes in. That's where a physician comes in. Go to your physician and get a panel of blood work. See what you might be missing. I know there are a lot of challenges in the medical industry, and quite honestly, I don't think it's the doctor's fault. I think it's mostly insurance fault, and we may not get as much time as we want, but your physicians are here to help you. And so trust them and have a conversation. You can absolutely push back. You can absolutely advocate for particular panels that you want run, but trust your physicians as well. And then I would also say, if you're going to take a supplement, know exactly what it's for. If you can't explain why you're taking something, it might be time to question whether you actually need it. Supplements are often intended to fill a gap for a short period of time. So if you've been taking something for 20 plus years, do you still need it? Maybe, but maybe not. I think it is wise and discerning to ask why we are taking something and if we still need it, and if we know if we need it or not. And I do want to mention one recurring argument that I think is fair, but maybe is not as dire as we are told. And that is this concept of our soil and how we have overproduced on our land and on our soil. I do think there is some truth to that, for sure. However, does that mean that the banana that I eat with my lunch has 0 potassium, which bananas have a lot of potassium in it? I don't think so. The research does suggest that the soil nutrient levels are degrading, and that's something to keep in mind. But again, does that mean that the nutrients are 0 or significantly less? Not necessarily. So just something to keep in mind with that as well. If you do want to take supplements, first let's talk about what to look for. And then also let's talk some about specific supplements that we hear are beneficial to women in perimenopause and menopause, which is more of this community. First of all, this is going to be very condensed. I actually did a full episode in season 22, episode 9, called What You Need to Know Before Purchasing Supplements. You're going to get a lot more. So if some of what I'm saying sparks interest, go back and listen to that. That came out in October 22nd, 2024. So you can go listen to that if you want more. But this, again, common sense, zooming out. First of all, I highly recommend, if you have been with me for any amount of time, you know what I'm going to say. Get it third party tested, or get one that is third party tested. This means that an independent agency has looked at the ingredients that are on the label and they have verified that yes, that is what it is. Otherwise, you don't know if you are getting more or less, or if there are additional ingredients that your body may not respond to well. So third-party testing is very important. 3 of the larger ones are NSF, USP, and informed choice. So if it will often have like a little label on the back if it is third party tested. Also be aware that if it says natural or organic, that doesn't necessarily mean it is tested, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it is any safer from an ingredient standpoint than non-organic or non-natural if it's not third-party tested. So that is not a label that means it is 100% safe. You still need to have those precautions of having that third-party tested. You also want to make sure that you understand how much of something you are taking. And especially if you are taking something that has very high concentrations, and I'm thinking specifically of like B12. If you are taking high amounts of B12, make sure you let your physician know that you're taking that before you do other blood work. I have taken B12 supplements before, specifically when I was dealing with the effects of ciguatera, which is like a toxic seafood poisoning. And that happened back in 2019. But one of the protocols that I was using was I was taking B12. The B12 that I took, I think it was like 1,500% of what I needed. I mean, it was something totally bananas. At the time, my body needed that. And I also did not take that amount. But be aware of what you are taking, because excess amounts can have detrimental effects. Another vitamin that comes to mind with this is vitamin B6. Vitamin B6 can have a lot of wonderful benefits, like it can support your brain health and your mood. It can help prevent anemia. It can be good for your heart health, immunity, but If you take too much, then it actually will have negative effects. And in fact, I have a friend who was taking a large amount of B6 and ended up having a lot of like neurological issues, like nerve stuff. So she went through, she got all the CAT scans, she got all of that kind of stuff. And at the same time, she took out the B6 because we were having that conversation. I was like, you might want to be thinking about that, and problems resolved. So more is not necessarily better for sure when it comes to supplements. Know how much you are taking. And I would just say also look for the red flags. Are they making claims that seem too good to be true? Are they saying things that are getting you right in that pain point and you think this is it? This is going to be the magic wand that will help fix everything? Because I hate to be the one to tell you this, but there's just not a magic wand. I'm sorry. Often, yes, a supplement can help in conjunction with doing other things, like just the basics of taking care of yourself, like taking care of your sleep and your stress and eating a variety of foods. Supplements can be helpful in tandem with everything else, but there's just no, I'm so sorry, I wish there was. Trust me, I wish there was, but there is no magic wand for that. Now, for women in perimenopause and menopause, which that is, if you're watching, that is probably you or someone dragged you into this. These are the supplements that I consistently see recommended by various people that I listen to and I trust. So one of those is protein. And yes, if you are taking a scoop of protein powder, that is a supplement, not a food. And those are absolutely helpful after we have our food. Again, let's not do the protein shake for breakfast, a couple protein bars for lunch, and moving on. Like, let's have a lot of normal, like eat some meat, eat some fish, eat some beans, eat some lentils, like that kind of stuff to increase your protein. And then on top of that, add in your protein powder if you want to do that. Some people don't want to do that, and that's okay. But we do want to make sure that we are getting enough protein. I just did a common sense episode on protein. It pulls everything together that I have been learning over the last 5-6 years, and it's a shorter episode, so you can listen to that. The second one is creatine. I also just did an episode on creatine. It's not just for bodybuilders. It is actually the most widely researched supplement out there. It is safe for most people, not for all people. If you have kidney disease, not recommended. Okay, don't have creatine if you have kidney disease. But creatine can be really helpful. Again, I just did an episode on that, so I won't spend much time. But it has brain health benefits. It can have mood and energy. It can actually help you in your strength training sessions to kind of get that one extra rep out. From a physiological and energy standpoint, it can be really helpful. So something like that could be helpful if you want to include it. The general recommendation is between 3 and 5 grams of creatine a day. Consistency is important, so it's helpful to do that. And actually, as I'm thinking that, I'm thinking, oh, I haven't done mine today, so I need to go down and have that here in a little bit. But creatine is another supplement that can be helpful specifically for our community. Another one is vitamin D. Okay, vitamin D deficiency is really common, especially in women. I live, as many of you know, in the Houston, Texas area. And when my kids were like early elementary school and we were outside, maybe they were even like preschool, they were young, and I would always take them to the park because I would not let them climb my house. So we would go to the park and I was outside all the time. And I remember going to the doctor and she checked my vitamin D levels and they were low. I don't get this. Like, I don't understand. I am outside a lot. And as one of my friends says, I could make better choices about my sunscreen. She really got onto me. I wear sunscreen on my face. I'm not great about it on the rest of my body. Like if I'm just in and out or on a walk or run or something like that. I do, like if I'm going to the beach, if I'm going to be outside for a while, I will put it on. But the sunscreen can impede your absorption of your vitamin D. So I don't understand what is going on, like with all of us with vitamin D levels, but a lot of us are very low in vitamin D. So that is one that you will find out in your blood work if you are low. Don't just assume because you don't want to have too much, but if it's low, vitamin D may be worth taking. Vitamin D supports your bone health, your immune function. There's a lot of different things that it does. Again, don't guess it. Just go get some blood work and you will then know if you need to supplement with that. If you do, highly recommend to pair it with K2 to help for your bone absorption. If you have concern about your bones, like with osteopenia or osteoporosis, very, very helpful to take the vitamin D with the K2. Another supplement that can be helpful is magnesium. I hear this recommended in little groups that I'm in online for so many things. That's because magnesium is used for hundreds of functions in our body. There are lots of different kinds of magnesium, so it's important to know what kind of magnesium is what your body needs. Unfortunately, standard blood tests are not going to show the full extent of your magnesium levels. So this is one where you might have to do a little bit of investigative research on yourself and pay attention to symptoms and learn a little bit more about magnesium. Again, we're doing higher level here, so I'm not going to get into the weeds on that. I do have an episode with Natalie Gerardo on magnesium that if you want to go listen to that was super helpful. But magnesium is depleted by stress, it's depleted by sweat, poor sleep. If you drink alcohol, alcohol sucks the magnesium out of you. Like I said, there are different forms. So like I will get twitchy muscles. I'm recording this in June. And if I am outside a decent amount, then I sweat a lot. And so I have found that my muscles will need a little boost of magnesium malate because malate really controls your muscle functions. How do I know this? Because when I'm going to bed at night and I'm falling asleep, my quads will twitch and wake me up. And then I'm awake for about 10 minutes. And then I'm falling and drifting off asleep again, and it will keep happening. So that's something that I have learned for myself. I have to kind of stay on top of, but that's magnesium malate. If you have sleep and anxiety, magnesium glycinate may be helpful. L-threonate is really great for brain and cognitive support. There is some studies that suggest it can help you with deep sleep. I'm going to be really honest. If I am going to believe my watch and all of the data it collects from my sleep, L-threonate does not really do anything for my deep sleep. I have tried it several times and I'm not getting any deeper sleep. So I'm like, why am I taking this? I'm just not going to. If you know of a compelling reason for me to take that, reach out and let me know. I'd love to hear it. I mean, on the podcast, you can always reach out to me at the very top of the show notes. It says, click here to text thoughts on today's episode. Click that, text me, let me know. Or if you're watching on YouTube, put it down on YouTube. But I'm not really seeing any difference in my sleep, so I'm not going to take it. And also just keep in mind that your magnesium is not a one-size-fits-all supplement. You'll need different amounts. And again, what is your focus? Do your research on that. Go listen to that episode with Natalie. Finally, omega-3s can be helpful. Now, I have to correct myself. Somewhere in one of my episodes, in one of my 500 plus episodes, I was saying that I was taking omega-3s that were fish oil based. And then I turned my chia seeds around and realized that my chia seeds had 2.1 grams of omega-3s and my fish oils had like 1.3 grams of omega-3s. And I was like, why am I taking a supplement when I'm taking I take like a tablespoon or I have a tablespoon of chia seeds most days. And I'm like, this is dumb. I'm not doing that. I have since learned that actually that's not apples to apples because the fish oil has EPA and DHA, which is the usable form, and chia seeds has ALA, which has to be converted into the EPA and DHA. And that conversion rate is pretty poor, like 5 to 15%. So I was wrong about the chia seeds. I apologize. However, chia seeds are great for fiber and they have protein and they have good healthy fats. So I'm not saying don't take them. I still do, but they're not great for omega-3s in terms of your heart health. And that's a big reason that we want to take those omega-3s so we can increase that HDL, which will help with our LDL. HDL is the one that we want that's high, LDL we want low. H high, L low. You probably already know all of that. So those are just the 5 main ones that I would say start with those if you want to do supplements. And I would say don't even do all 5 of them. Start with one. Which one? Well, which one is most important to you? If you are highly concerned about your bone health, then I would do vitamin D and I would add in calcium, which I haven't talked about here, but that's important to you. If you are really wanting to just nail it in the gym and get stronger, then creatine is great, plus your protein. I mean, it just depends. Like this, again, this is going back to the car analogy. Like, what do you need? What do you want? I'm not going to buy every car out there just because someone tells me that I need to buy a car or because this particular car is really awesome. I don't want you buying supplements just because a 60-second reel on Instagram claims that it's like the next greatest thing and this is the one thing that's missing for your holistic health. People are selling something. They have a reason to do that. And I'm not knocking that, but I just think that we need to step back and be like, okay, but does this make sense? What is the common sense approach to that? Which is why I did this little episode. So I hope that this episode just kind of gives you some guideposts. This is not a prescription. This is all about what your body needs, what your healthcare provider is recommending to you. And also, let's be honest, what's your budget? Some supplements can cost a lot of money. And especially if we're not sure if they're working for us, then really all we're doing is having very expensive urine. So use your own common sense. And remember, this is not a magic wand. Nothing is going to be a magic wand. It is going to be a combination of healthful habits. You don't need the entire supplement aisle. And I will admit that sometimes when I'm walking down, I'm like, ooh, well, that looks really interesting. Well, that's a problem that I have. Here's a challenge. Notice the things that are on the labels. And what I have started noticing is they'll put on there like how you can feel, what it helps, not necessarily what the product is. So maybe it'll say like magnesium for being calm or for better sleep or something like that. I mean, I want to be calm. I want better sleep, but does that mean I need magnesium? No, maybe it just means I need to breathe, which stay tuned. We're going to have a common sense episode on breathing soon. So you may not need the things that they say on the label. Maybe you need to do something else, or maybe you just don't need anything at all. I know a lot of this was high level. This was not a deep dive. This was, I know I've said it several times, a common sense approach because we forget that we have that. You have that. I have that. Do I always use mine? No. Do you? I hope. But if you don't, that's okay. You can start now with kind of thinking, pull yourself out and think, okay, does this make sense? And then you can go forward and choose the supplements that are right for you and your uniquely created body. Okay, that's all for today. Go out there and have a graced day.